Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going deep on Act 4, Scene 3 of Hamlet.
All right, so if you're listening to this, you probably know the play pretty well already.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Think of this as your study guide. Maybe a little extra insight to help you ace that next exam.
Or just, a new way to appreciate this amazing scene.
Exactly. This one's a doozy, right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it's right after Polonius gets killed, and
Oh, yeah, huge turning point in the play.
for sure. And the king, man,
Yeah.
he's got a real problem on his hands.
Doesn't he, though?
Murdered advisor.
Right, but can't just blame Hamlet outright.
Hamlet's popular.
Exactly. People love him.
So what's he going to do?
Well, that's where that whole desperate diseases line comes in.
Oh, yeah.
Desperate appliance and all that.
So he's basically like, I got to do something drastic here.
It does sound a little suspicious, right?
Oh, yeah. Is he
Yeah.
really that worried, or is it just an excuse to...
To get rid of Hamlet.
Maybe.
I mean, it's definitely something to think about. Your teacher might even ask you that on a test.
Oh, for sure. It really makes you question the king's character, doesn't it?
Yeah. Like, is he really a good guy or is he just power hungry?
Right. And then there's the whole thing about him sending Hamlet away to England,
Super quickly, too. Like, he doesn't even hesitate.
which makes it seem even more like he's just scared.
It's desperate. Yeah.
But is it fear or is it ambition? What do you think?
It's hard to say for sure. Shakespeare loves to keep us guessing, but...
There are definitely clues.
Oh, yeah. If you look at how the king acts throughout the whole play...
It's pretty clear he's willing to do whatever it takes to stay in power.
Even if it means hurting the people he supposedly cares about.
Ouch.
Yeah, it's dark. So we've got a king acting kind of shady.
And then Hamlet comes in, and he's well, his answer's about Polonius.
Oh, they're anything but straightforward.
Totally. When he says Polonius is at supper,
It's almost funny in a really dark way.
like gallows humor,
Exactly. And it tells us a lot about what's going on in Hamlet's head.
he's not doing okay, that's for sure.
Nope. And your teacher's definitely going to want you to pick up on that. Like, what does it tell us about his mental state?
Good point. And then he goes on this whole rant about worms and kings and beggars. What's that all about?
That's classic Shakespeare. Using all these crazy images to talk about big ideas.
So what's the big idea here?
Well, when Hamlet's talking about kings becoming food for worms, just like beggars.
He's basically saying that we all end up the same in the end.
Right. Death is the great equalizer.
Wow, okay. Deep stuff.
Right. It makes you think about how fleeting power really is.
Okay, so if I'm a student, I'm highlighting this passage for sure.
Definitely. This is the kind of analysis that'll get you an A.
It's not just about death, though, is it? It's also about,
Hamlet's disillusionment.
yeah, and his struggle to find meaning in a world that feels corrupt.
Absolutely. So we've got Hamlet dealing with all that.
And then there's this whole thing with the king sending him to England.
Which feels a little off, doesn't it?
Yeah, the way he just decides so quickly.
Like he's got something up his sleeve? Remember, Shakespeare loves foreshadowing.
Oh, right. So this trip to England, it's not just a random trip.
Well, let's just say the king might have ulterior motives.
Oh, I'm intrigued.
Later on in the scene, he actually tells us what he's really planning.
Wait, really?
Yeah, and it's not good. He basically wants Hamlet dead.
Whoa.
Yeah, big plot twist.
So he's straight up sending him to his death.
Pretty much.
Wow. Talk about ruthless.
I know, right?
And this is definitely something my teacher would ask about.
Absolutely. Like, how does this show the king's true character?
And what does it say about power and how far people will go to keep it?
Exactly. So much to unpack there.
It's like Shakespeare's giving us this perfect example of,
Betrayal.
yeah, and corruption,
Yeah.
and how power can really mess people up.
It's all there in this one scene.
Yeah.
Then those themes are everywhere in the play.
Okay, so the king is being all sneaky.
Yeah.
And then we get this really strange goodbye between Hamlet and his mother.
Oh, you mean where he says she and his father are one and the same?
Yeah. What's that all about? I mean, he just lost his father, so.
It's a weird thing to say, isn't it?
Totally.
Well, there are a few ways to look at it.
Like what?
Some people think it's just Hamlet's grief talking,
Makes sense.
but others think it's more deliberate.
You mean like he's trying to provoke the king?
Exactly. Maybe he's even accusing his mother of being involved in the murder.
Whoa, okay. That's a whole other level of analysis.
I know, right? Like, Hamlet is playing this dangerous game with his words.
And it could definitely cause some arguments in class.
Oh, for sure. Everyone's got their own take on what that line means.
That's what makes this scene so great, though, isn't it?
Totally. It's full of these little hidden meanings.
Every line is like a puzzle.
And it's up to us to figure it all out.
We've covered so much already. We're just getting started.
And that's what's so cool about Shakespeare, right? There's always something new to discover.
Yeah, your teacher's going to love it if you bring this stuff up in class.
They eat it up.
So you're saying this one line from Hamlet, it could spark a whole debate about his mental state and his relationship with his mother.
Absolutely. And maybe even his plan for dealing with Claudius.
Whoa.
Right. It's a chance to really show off what you've learned.
Okay, so we've talked about the king being all shady and Hamlet's weird goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
But what are the big takeaways here? Like, what should students be focusing on if they have to write an essay about this scene?
Well, the first thing is that this scene is a major turning point. Like, things are about to get real.
How so?
Well, the king sending Hamlet to England. That sets off a whole chain of events that leads to...
Tragedy.
Exactly, for like everyone involved.
Yikes.
So it's important to understand why the king makes that decision.
You mean, like, is he really trying to protect Hamlet, or is he just trying to save his own skin?
Yeah, and how does that show his true character, right?
And how trapped does Hamlet feel?
Exactly.
Like he's constantly being manipulated.
All those themes we keep coming back to.
Corruption, deception, ambition.
They're all right there in this scene.
So this scene is like...
A microcosm of the whole play.
Yeah, exactly.
It shows you everything you need to know about the world of Hamlet.
Okay, so if I'm cramming for my exam,
Yeah.
what are the 3 things I need to remember about this scene?
First, you got to understand the king's motivations. Why does he send Hamlet away? Is it fear, ambition, both? Figure that out, and you're halfway there.
Makes sense. What's number 2?
Pay attention to Hamlet's language. All those weird answers he gives, and that last thing he says to his mother. What does it all mean?
Right, like, is he going crazy or is he being clever?
Exactly.
Okay, and the third thing.
Think about how this scene connects to the bigger picture. How does it fit with the play's main themes? And how does it lead to all the tragedy that comes later?
Okay, so we're looking at the consequences of the king's decision.
Exactly. It's like a domino effect.
This is super helpful. I feel like I could write a whole essay now.
That's the goal. Remember, it's not just about memorizing the plot. It's about showing your teacher that you can really think about the play and what it all means.
It's about reading between the lines.
Then making connections.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This scene is perfect for that.
It really is. And, it's not just about getting a good grade either. It's about appreciating how brilliant Shakespeare was.
Yeah, he was a genius.
Totally. He understood people so well. And the questions he asks about human nature, they're still relevant today.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground, but I still have some questions.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what's going through Hamlet's mind when he's being sent away? Does he know what the king is up to? And what about his relationship with his mother? Can they ever fix things?
Those are great questions, and they lead us perfectly into the next part of our deep dive.
Ooh, I can't wait.
We're going to focus on Hamlet's psychology and all those messed up relationships.
Buckle up, everyone.
It's about to get even more interesting.
Okay, so we've got the king's evil plan, Hamlet's cryptic farewell, all that. But I feel like we need to talk more about Hamlet himself, what's going on in his head.
Yeah, he's going through a lot right now. I mean, he just killed Polonius. Accidentally, but still.
Right, and on top of that, he's grieving, he's angry.
And now he's being sent away to this foreign land.
England? Doesn't sound too relaxing.
It's definitely not a vacation. And we're only getting glimpses into his thoughts.
Yeah. Shakespeare doesn't spell it out for us.
He wants us to think for ourselves, to try and understand what Hamlet is feeling.
So what questions should we be asking?
Well, for starters, does Hamlet suspect what the king is up to?
That's a good one. I mean, he knows Claudius killed his father.
Right, so he's not exactly naive.
But he's also so caught up in his own grief and anger.
Yeah, maybe he's just not thinking straight.
It makes me think of that weird thing he says to his mother about her and his father being one and the same.
That's a tough one to interpret. Could just be the grief talking.
Or could it be something more?
Some people think it's a deliberate provocation.
You mean like he's accusing her of being involved in the murder?
Maybe. It's definitely a possibility.
Wow. That would be intense.
It would, and it shows how clever Hamlet is. How he uses his words as weapons.
And what about their relationship? You think there's any chance they can reconcile?
It's hard to say. I mean, she loves him, but she's also with Claudius now.
Yeah, they're both caught in this web of lies and betrayal.
And now Hamlet's being sent away.
It feels like they're drifting further apart.
It's definitely a tragic situation. But, Hamlet isn't just about revenge and politics.
There's so much more to it.
It's about family, loss, forgiveness, all those complicated human emotions.
It's amazing how much Shakespeare packed into this one play.
I know, right? And we've only scratched the surface.
Oh, we've covered a lot in this deep dive.
We have. The king's scheming, Hamlet's inner turmoil, those complicated relationships.
And all those big themes about power and corruption and the human condition.
And all there.
I hope everyone listening feels a little more prepared to tackle their next Hamlet essay.
Me too.
And remember, this is just one interpretation.
There are so many ways to read Hamlet.
So keep thinking about it. Keep asking questions. Keep the conversation going.
That's what makes it so fascinating.
And that's it for our deep dive on Act 4, Scene 3 of Hamlet. Thanks for joining us.